Good evening. It's Wednesday evening.
Happy Wednesday, everybody. Miserable weather, but happy Wednesday.
And once again, we have the most, I'd say, no, let's not say controversial.
I would say controversial, definitely controversial.
No, we have someone we always get good ratings when you're on. It's like you're like a rating.
I would say, you know what, the word be unorthodox. I like that one better. A little controversial.
But the big thing is I always like to check my mic because I never know if it's falling off of me. But anyway, the big thing like we're going to be talking about today is obviously one of the big questions. And before we get into it, I'll get into some housekeeping stuff because I always like to get to housekeeping.
Sure.
Except my wife knows that I'm not good at housekeeping. Just like talking about.
Should talk to my wife. Oh my god.
So, but it is housekeeping as far as the lives are concerned. So I like to always keep people in the know about a few things that are going on market-wise, and I think you probably are well adept into that as well. So we're going to get into some of the topics regarding like some of those things that you should know if you are in the market or going on the market or considering agents and things like that. These are the things that we think you should know. Right. That could be possible pitfalls. That they're not really common questions that most people would quite understand in a typical interview, but you should be aware of them because we did run across some things in the last few weeks that make it interesting.
Yeah, I've had a for sale by owner.
Yeah. But
and
well, I promise you we'll get to all that. We're gonna sell it. He's ready. He's just ready to fire off. He's got it's the trigger. He's just ready. He's ready to go.
Quick trigger.
But a couple. Let me finish the housekeeping. I promise you we'll get. Obviously, there was some news today. The Fed is not raising rates. They're not lowering rates either.
Oh, okay.
So if you're looking at it, today's market, but did you see the markets today? The NASDAQ was down 2%.
Because they were expecting
we had kind of.
They were expecting 4 rate drops.
Yeah,
by
3 to 4. Yeah.
By April, right?
And the markets reacted to it.
So of course they're going to react because everybody was backing on it.
The real interesting thing that I noticed today was New York Community Bank dropped 36% in a day.
Wow.
New York Community Bank. So a lot of people here bank at New York Community Bank, and it was and the reason why is they took over Signature Bank.
Wow.
2 loans went defunct. 2 big commercial loans went defunct.
And that's it?
They lost 800. Oh, we got some balloons. Some balloons. What is that? I've never seen that before.
We should do a live Q&A too, where people can ask questions.
Yeah, they can ask questions if you can see that far.
If I can see the screen and I can answer questions live.
But the big thing is that they lost 2 loans and and they announced a dividend cut from 17 cents a share to down to 5.
It's huge.
So liquidity problem there.
Sure.
Is it a liquidity problem? They took over Signature Bank's accounts.
That's what usually happens. That just banks get bigger and bigger on 08.
Well, that's the interesting thing. So that's something to watch.
So the rates is huge. That's something that I want to keep an eye on.
New York Community Bank is big because I know a lot of people here locally bank there. So I'm one of them.
Okay.
I'm in a New York Community Bank. So make sure my deposits are good.
That's something I want to keep an eye on.
We'll have a
I'm going
problem.
to that spring market, and people are banking on these rate drops. So they're.
Well, it's not gonna. I don't see it. It looks like that's not gonna happen.
That's what's holding most buyers from putting their homes on the market. Because they feel. The sellers from putting their home on the market because they feel like I locked it at 3.5. I'm at 4%.
They yield it a lot.
And why would I go and take a new mortgage out at 6 or 7%? I'm good at my 3%. Let me just stay here. I don't have to move. I'm happy.
Everything comes down to equity positions, though. I think overall.
Sure.
Because sometimes
it's affordability.
Right. Yeah. It's like
how much house can you buy?
How much house could you buy? And then you have to think of like where the market is currently versus where it can be. So like, there's a lot of people with a good equity position. So if their equity positions are good, I don't think rates.
I think most people are in very good equity positions. The ones that purchased their home, let's just say 2020 and prior, which is 4 years ago. It's not that long ago. Yeah. I know I have friends of mine that purchased their homes in New Jersey in 2020 who now probably doubled their price of the home. They purchased a home for like three and change. They're like $550, almost $600,000. So most people so he's
2020.
They're happy.
That was a big.
And it's not that long ago. It's only 4 years ago, and you almost doubled your money, and you have a good rate, which is the lowest.
Yeah, and people people who are selling and bought in 2020, and they feel like they're losing money.
Those rates, right?
Well, I think some people
money.
actually feel like they're losing money, and like if they're selling now in 4 years, you got a 40% return on your investment. You've done extremely well. So my thing is that, one of the things before we get into the really thrust of this discussion is we saw prices come down in New Jersey for the first time. And I think
yes, that's the transitional market.
In the transitional markets. So if anybody knows the transitional markets,
New York, I have not. The prices in Staten Island have been.
They've been doing good.
Doing very.
I think Monmouth County has done extremely well. I think where the weakness is showing up.
The further away from the city.
Yeah.
That remote, also the remote work, we're going back into people going back to the office. So it's not as appealing now to be 2 hours away or more.
Right.
So now people are reconsidering going to those transitional markets, which is further south in Jersey.
So now into the thrust of what we're going to be discussing, which is the things that home sellers would obviously, you would expect them to start thinking. What's some of these hidden items that you see like maybe being an issue?
The biggest issue, and I hate to use this term, I call it popularity contest. And I had a seller, he was for sale by owner, and he knew 5 or 6 other realtors. And everybody said, oh, list with me. He interviewed a few.
This was a good one.
He did not know me personally, never dealt with me. Someone recommended me to him. Mm-hmm. And we had a discussion. He said to me, Victor, I need this amount of money for my home. And he was asking for quite a bit. It was a bit of a challenge.
Well, you could say the address.
All right, 57 Hemlock.
You don't have to hold it back. 57 Hemlock.
And I got the highest sales price for a semi-attached in that community. The highest sales price was $920. We got $935 for our client.
$935 for a semi.
When I had the discussion with him, he said to me, I need X amount of money. I said to him, I can get you that number, but what are we going to do to get you that number? And it's not because you like me or because we go have peers together. We need to do the geo-targeting. We did the video tour, and
we had multiple offers on that.
We had multiple offers on the property, and case in point, even the property in Jersey that we have, I had somebody from Baltimore, Maryland, call me today to go see that property in Jackson, New Jersey, to show you how important is our reach, which to me is more effective than an open house. A sign in an open house will not reach California, Maryland, Texas. Obviously, the internet is a world wide web, so the gentleman saw our video, saw our marketing, and said, I want to move. I have family in that area in Jackson. I'm coming in from Baltimore. I'm interested in that property. I want to see that property.
And that's the funny thing. I think as the advent, we've talked about technology before. How it's impacting the real estate industry as a whole, and why sellers really need to pay attention to this. Because I think one of the things that we're going to see as a more passive approach is the use of what I call database marketing sets, which is like I look for a house within a certain price range, and the dynamic is beginning to change. So like every time markets shift, it's kind of interesting how and I've been doing some homework on this. It's like what's happening is like you got to reach people from outside the box. And if anybody's familiar with
I'm
how
glad you said outside the box, because we had the conversation with the homeowner in Jackson, where she was working with the local realtors.
yes,
And so I'm licensed in New York and New Jersey. We belong to multiple MLSs.
Yes.
So we list in New York, MLS, Monmouth, Ocean, Central Jersey, multiple.
so the funny thing is,
So our reach
yeah.
is much wider, is much larger. So she was focused. And how many more showings have we had?
I think she said to us when we met her,
How many showings?
she had about 8.
8. We have, right now, since we went on the market, we already had 5 showings
In a span of days.
in the span of 2 days.
So that goes to show that
So-
if you reach outside the box, and that's the thing. It's like, you know, and it's a good thing going into a sales market. It's one of the things that question.
She was shocked.
Yeah, I think they're very shocked at this point. But I think a lot of people, because one of the interesting things is like, I mean, probably by most people's standards, they say, "Oh, well, you're a smaller outfit," because of the amount of people we have actually here. But the thing is that with the internet, you could turn 5 people into 500,000 people. So the interesting thing is called a network effect, right? So what we do is, well, people know network effect as far as like a street level network effect. You could create network effects in marketing. So we are able to sell property that's sometimes upwards of 100 miles away.
I've done that.
And that goes to show
properties
you.
and MLSs which I didn't even belong into.
Right, I mean, yes, I mean, it's like, but because of the ability of the effectiveness of what I call
That's the power of the internet.
It's the power of the internet. It's the power of creating network effect, which is an infrastructure requirement. So when we talk about infrastructure, it means that, you know, while videos are great and everything else, is the infrastructure set up in a way that creates a delivery mechanism. So everybody who knows TV channels, obviously there's some TV channels that I've never watched. And, you know, if I told you it's on Channel 9 tonight, you wouldn't know.
Right.
But there can be news on Channel 9. WOR, which is, but the ratings are very low because what it is the infrastructure is not set up for that. So that, did that make a peep? I hear a peep somewhere. Oh, that's maybe.
But also, not only that, but
that's the brakes on a truck. I thought I heard a peep coming from there.
But also the geo-targeting that we use is
Yeah.
key, which actually tracks so makes that house finds the buyer too.
Yeah. So we don't give away everything here.
True. That's one of our trade secrets, yes.
Well, I mean, it's not a trade secret, but it is.
But how do we do it?
Yeah, that's the trick.
That's the trick.
Right. We'll keep that to ourselves. You'll have to call us for that. We'll sit down and have a conversation.
Yep.
How that works. But the big thing is now we've talked many issues about buyers and sellers, what buyers and sellers should understand about the process, and what they should know, and what they don't know, what they should be saying, what they shouldn't be saying, what's being given away, fiduciary responsibility.
Fiduciary responsibility.
So I'm going to give you a scenario and just play this out for me. So
Okay.
we kind of, well, it's going to softball this one. This is softball. Don't worry. I'm going to lay it out there.
Okay.
So you have a. Let's say you have a buyer. You're working with a buyer's agent
Correct.
as a buyer.
As a buyer's agent.
You're working as a buyer's agent.
So
and you
I
have a
represent
seller's
the
agent.
buyer.
But the buyer's agent knows your seller on a personal level. What do you think about that? What? Give me the process you think that.
The problem is, okay, so let's just say you're my cousin,
Right.
and you listed your house for sale with a competitor. Not with me, with another realty. That's your business, right? Now I know you, right? I'm your cousin, but I'm bringing a buyer to your listing. I can't contact you directly. Hey, Anthony, I'm going to be passing by with a buyer. I am breaking my fiduciary.
Yes.
There could be a liability there because I would have to disclose to my buyer that I have a relationship now with that seller. That's number one.
Yeah, that's an
And
interesting point.
also by contacting you directly, I'm also committing an ethics violation because you're being represented by a seller's agent, which is another company, and it's an active listing.
Yeah.
So I could call you and say, hey, Anthony, let's go out for some beers, but I should not be discussing anything about the listing because it's an active listing. You're being represented by a seller's agent. I could bring it, so if I have my buyer, I would tell him, look, I know him, but we would have put in an offer. I'm not going to go to you, hey, Anthony, we're going to put in an offer. I'm going to call your agent. They say, Mr. So-and-so from XYZ agency, I'd like to submit an offer. And that's it. And then your agent will present it to you.
So the key there, I think, is that when you're dealing with the buyer agent side of it, and you do know the homeowner, you do need to disclose the relationship with the buyer's agent, with the buyer yourself, because this is like one of those things, like, I mean, Staten Island being a small place, people know each other, that's obvious. But the big thing is like, what happens? You got to disclose the fact, because that the question is like, what happens in the buyer's eyes? Oh, your agent knows the seller. Some people think it may give them a better negotiation position.
Well, what happens here?
Or conversely, they could be telling them things that would be adverse to.
It could be adverse to you, to the seller, or adverse to the buyer.
Yeah, and I think the important thing is that you need to let the buyer understand what the relationship is and let them figure it out for themselves. And if the buyer feels like it's a conflict of interest, let them make that decision. It happens frequently.
I've seen it happen.
You know, it's like, okay, well, I know the homeowner, and that's great, and you know, oh, maybe they could help me get a deal, or maybe they could help me pay more for it. It doesn't, you know, you just don't know. There's no, the relationship could be stronger between the buyer's agent and the homeowner than the buyer's agent and the buyer, and it could lead to people doing things that may not necessarily.
And you would hurt.
But you have to disclose.
You have to
get that disclosure. That's they need to disclose.
Sometimes the thing is, we as professionals. Mm-hmm. We have a code of ethics that we need to follow. I'm not blaming the homeowner. They're not licensed real estate agents.
Right.
And they may be innocently doing things, not on purpose. However, the agent should know better, right? We should know better, and we're held to a higher standard. We have a code of ethics that we must follow.
Yeah, and I just think it's important for the process is that if you're in the negotiation and like, you know, like disclosing positions between people of, and we've done this a lot, and you know, we did the thing with the ring and the ring doorbell situation.
We had that situation,
which is, you know, like privy conversations between buyer agent and buyer and seller agent and seller are privy conversations. They should not be disclosed and discussed, whether it's through ring, and for the homeowners that you have a ring or ring located inside the house, these things are not supposed to be on.
No,
you're committing, and because when you show a house, you're basically making what they call like you're giving a consent to like almost. You're giving consent for the purposes of marketing a property, which makes it commercial, and to the degree that you could like accessing space that otherwise would be private, you can't record.
That's why I never discuss. I've seen my clients, they're like, oh my God, I love the house. I'm like, let's talk in the car.
Right.
Don't talk in the backyard.
There's lawsuits involved.
There are ring cameras in the backyard. There are ring cameras on the front door. If the homeowners are not home, they may have indoor cameras that can listen in. Do not discuss your offer with your agent, and your agent should know better.
As a precaution.
Inside or outside the home. Wait until you get into the car or go back to the office.
Yes, and spare the details about what you like and dislike.
Also, yes, don't tell them, the bathroom smells horrible. I hate the wallpaper.
Right.
The homeowner has horrible taste. Refrain from any positive or negative comments. Just do not make.
And the funny thing is that whether or not these are personal. This is personal. Like I hate to say,
people take offense. They'll be like,
people take offense.
Even
though it's a dollar situation, it's like it is a dollar transaction. It's a transaction. Like this is why. I always say on the cautious side for buyers, obviously for sellers, it does present problems because there are some lawsuits around the country where. The buyer believes that their positions were compromised because...
Yeah, and they have a right to... They have a lot...
Their positions were compromised because...
We're in a litigious society, and that will open up a door for a lawsuit. If that is the case with the Ring or anything like that. If you
And you know the law, so we're a one-party consent
So
state.
New York State is a one-party state. So right now, if I want to record our conversation, it's just you and I in this room. I do not have to tell you that I'm going to record it because I'm one party to the conversation. I could put my phone on record and we'll talk and I'll record the conversation. However, if I leave my phone here, I'm hit record and I walk out and another agent comes in here and I want to eavesdrop on the conversation. Now I'm a third party. I'm not part of the conversation between you and the other individual. Now that's illegal.
Yeah.
Because now
people don't think it's
I'm eavesdropping.
one-party consent state, guys.
That's
so
New York.
if you do listen to a party that's outside of your...
You become the third party, meaning that's what's one party. You have to be a
And
party
it doesn't
to
matter
the
your
conversation.
location. And people think because it's in my house, it gives you...
No.
It
There's
doesn't.
something called expectation of privacy. That's what it's called.
Right.
Right? So I have an expectation of privacy. If I'm in this room, just me and you, I have an expectation that the conversation that I'm having with you will be between me and you.
Correct.
And not a third party. That is my expectation.
And if there is, if you want to be on the safe side, it should be disclosed prior to someone coming in the house that there is recording devices
Right.
on the property, and you just not having it and eavesdropping is, that's not to say that makes it an absolute right, or it doesn't give you blanket authority to do so.
Right.
But I mean, it's going to at least, avoid the circumstance where a possible cause of action could be made, that something in that conversation compromises the position of a buyer. And we see it, the prevalence of Ring and these devices are really a problem. I mean, it's a problem because people just don't understand. It does say it on it, just so you know, I believe, I checked into this and I forgot to tell you about it because I did check into it. It actually says this. I think on the warning label when you take out the Ring,
Correct.
it gives you this law
Yes, of course.
about this particular thing. So they actually warn you in advance that this is not supposed to be used for. This is supposed to be used for purposes other
Right.
than, like, monitoring your kids or something like, but it should be, or if you're in that type of environment, and it's like the whole thing. What makes it interesting about the law is the difference between video camera and audio. Audio is more.
So I remember in my past life when I was doing surveillance, and
Yeah.
I would always disable the sound.
Right.
Because if I got subpoenaed by the court, we had to submit the recording, and it would have no sound on it, just to cover myself. It was video only, so that's different.
This is one of those things and those topics that that probably a lot of people are like, no, it's tough. I know it's tough for everybody, kind of like, oh God, it's like, could it be a problem? Yeah, I mean, it should be done. And if you open up the warning labels, and I think there's several places where it says about the use of Ring for the purposes other than like your family, and that extends. Just so you know, this has happened to this. It's such a fascinating topic because the Ring thing is so like.
It's okay. Now you have those.
Well, you know what? It came up where family members were at a party, and another family member sued somebody for what they said on a freaking Ring. That it was a party, and they want to sue the person for defamation. Because they were at a party and the Ring caught them talking about them.
Yeah, but a couple of drinks, you might say a few things that I may be sued for
Why should you
defamation.
say at family parties? Because it could, like, seriously. And I saw a defamation case on a, and obviously, the thing is the evidence admissible? And the answer is no. Because it's an eavesdropping case, so it's like you could actually get in trouble for like you caught somebody
up a can of worms there.
But it's happened.
Oh, yeah.
Family members have caught members talking about them at family functions, and it's if you go on, you can go do some research on this on your own. These things are just, but because it's just we have such a techie society now, people just admit.
It's too accessible. These devices are.
Well, once just.
I remember back in the day, like even a wiretap, where a wire was.
Just so you know, I don't know if your mic is
No,
on.
it's on.
Oh, you got the blue light on?
Yeah, I got the blue light on.
get the blue light special. I always like to check.
But back in the day, this technology that was not accessible. It's people take it for granted. It wasn't that long ago.
Yeah.
I mean, we're digital.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting
It's
to
just-
see like how that is like playing into people's.
But I protect. Having said that, I protect my clients, especially my buyers. I also warn my sellers. Always represent them in every which way.
Yeah, know that this.
Always represent whatever.
Let's call it for what it is. The sellers are going to do what they want anyway.
Of course.
You'll tell them to turn it off, and they'll be like, "Nah. Okay, we'll turn it off." Still gonna listen. But listen, you just all I can tell you, it can raise concerns, and the best way to protect yourself, obviously, is if you're a buyer. Mum's the word, and that includes all the way to the curb, because those things I heard, you're almost like 50 feet away, like you could hear a conversation in the street.
A lot of people want to deal with the listing agent directly. Sometimes buyers, or they feel they may get a better deal, and that may not be the case. What happens is you may disclose things to the seller's agent. Let's just say you say, "I'm willing to pay full asking price." But you know what? But if the seller wants, I'm willing to go up higher than that. Guess what the seller's agent is going to do? He's going to go back to the seller and say, "Hey, there's a buyer there that's not represented, and he may pay above asking price." And guess what's going to happen? You're going to pay above asking price. Whereas have representation.
I think the funniest thing with that is escalation.
So escalation clause, I was asked about
which is the
that.
most ridiculous.
You know, most people,
thing
their
you do.
agents
I'm
don't know
sorry.
about it.
It's like when I hear escalation clauses, this is during the heat of the
I have had it. They had an escalation
What?
clause that most agents don't know. It's something that I don't see in New York.
It's
But it
crazy.
seems to be, it was a New Jersey thing when their offers, and the escalation clause, the basics of it are, this house is $700,000, right? And we tell everybody, we have multiple offers, give us highest and best. So someone will give us, 710, 720, someone may pay 730. All of a sudden comes the agent and says, "I'm going to submit an escalation clause at $5,000 intervals all the way to $800,000. So what that means is the house is $700,000, but they're willing to pay $5,000 above the highest offer, all the way up to the limit, the ceiling of $800,000.
And us as listing
And
agents.
when you present that to the
Us as
seller,
listing agents,
the seller will be like, "Oh, well, I want the full 800," and you can't do that, because what happens is you have to present the highest offer. Let's just say is 730. Escalation clause is automatically going to be 735, but you have to present that 730 offer, right? There's no
Problem
doubt.
what it is that what we tell people is you're going to do an escalation clause. If that's the price you're going to go up to, you gotta submit your final.
Just submit your file. I'm not a fan of the
Because I mean,
escalation
but
clause.
it's not even. It's not. To be honest with you, it's not. It's ridiculous.
And I've had them, and it's like, okay,
But like, if you're saying you're willing to pay $45,000 over list price,
just submit it when you have.
then that means you're ready to pay $45,000 over list price. So submit that offer, or don't submit it. This is what your final is. Then leave it at the final. I can't, and I don't. I just don't know how that works. Like from a fiduciary standpoint.
Like I said, it's not a New York thing. That's when
I've never seen it yet.
It's a whole. I've seen it in New Jersey. It's a different beast. When I work in New Jersey, it's a different. The inspection goes after the contract in New Jersey. In New York, it's before the contract. So it's.
You know, there were things.
When I work in New York, I do things one way, and when I'm in New Jersey, I have to put the New Jersey hat on and do it the New Jersey way.
The New Jersey way.
Yeah.
Which is like backwards.
It's
backwards from us. I'm not saying
it may
backwards.
seem backwards.
I think it works for certain things, and it's like, but if there was a combination of both, because one of the things that I find, and there's a seller going into the spring market, so you're gonna have these things happen. There's differences, so that's what kind of highlighted here. If we get too far away from the topic, but the big thing is when you go in to contract, then you do the inspection. The problem is what I found with New Jersey is that could be a long lag time. So unlike where here we get an offer and we put like the house in acceptance, you could still show the house and it's not under contract.
Correct.
So you could because technically it's under contract.
When in New Jersey, that's an actual contract.
Right.
When you submit an offer, it's an actual contract.
So they can't even accept another
subject
offer.
to attorney review, of course.
And inspection.
Right. But over here, it's a binder. It's just an offer to purchase in New York.
Right, so it's not a final.
It's not a contract.
So if you get into, but the big thing is it locks that person into that price.
Oh, yes.
And you really can't knock them out.
No. So it's a
you know, I mean, it's, to a certain degree, it's a little, that's where it gets a little dicey.
It does.
And like you could hold somebody up on an inspection for 2 weeks off the market, and there's almost nothing the seller could do about it.
No. Because it's the due diligence period.
Right.
Right.
I mean, usually there's a given period of time within the.
And speaking of inspections, I don't care if my clients lose the house as buyers. I always push for an inspection. That's just me. It's sometimes they make you waive inspection and things like that. I'm not a fan of that. This is a high stakes. You're looking at $700,000, $1 million asset that you're purchasing. Spend the $600 or whatever it costs to do the inspection. And I would never tell a client, one of my buyers, hey, you know what, so we got a better chance at waive inspection. If they want to do it, it's on them. I said, I would not waive inspection if I were purchasing a home. However, having said that, you do as you wish. That's just my...
Yeah, I think, you know, I mean, but I think one of the things that, if they're getting the price, you have to consider what that may look like. I mean, and I always say to consider what that may look like or not. Meaning that if, you know, if you feel like you're buying a house at a pretty good discount, and you think that's going to be the thing that kind of takes the case.
So if it's a newer house, you know, yes, you could take a...
But even if, you know, somebody says, you know, they think they're really getting a steal on a house, and that's the thing, maybe there is a problem, but they've kind of priced that into their offer.
That's different.
And they feel like no matter what's wrong with the house, it may be worth it then. You know, like I said, and I think you're absolutely right. I think in most cases, it's the way to go. So I mean,
I'm very old school. That's how I operate.
Old school. Does it like the movie? No. Okay.
So old school. I think so.
Anyway, forget that. So the other thing is pricing now and pricing. One
I've been
and
challenged
two.
on my prices, by the way.
That's what I want to talk about. Is when agents over and the conversations between buyer agent and seller. I want to.
Here's the thing.
There was a situation that I think should be kind of put out there. And it's dangerous because in these ultra competitive markets, we're seeing more
unethical. I mean,
well, we see more of it because of the way the competitiveness of the market. It's like, oh well, you know.
I've been doing this for a long time, and I am very meticulous when I price a home. I run my comps. I like to push the envelope to a degree that's realistic. I'm not going to overprice a home by $100,000. Knowing full well that I'm not going to be able to sell it and it's going to expire and it's going to hurt the homeowner. I've had situations where some brokers or agents will go into an active listing and question, how did,
you come up with the price.
How did Victor come up with that price? You could get a lot more for this house. That is an ethics violation, by the way. You're interfering with an active listing.
You know, and
it's
not small because it gets back.
And it gets back to me. Of course, the client say, oh, by the way, an agent said, Victor, an agent felt that we underpriced a house and we could get more for this house.
The funny thing in that particular situation is that there was no comp. There was no, every comp.
I did the comps.
We were over the price of the last comp.
Well, anyway,
we felt we could achieve it, and
I did achieve it.
Right.
I broke the highest sales price in the community.
Right. And but based on that price, they said they were like. So I'm like, where would they be in a position to question? Because it's not. As a
matter of fact, I listed at a higher listing price than the highest list price in the community.
I got it.
In addition to that,
I listed
about $15,000 to $20,000 above that listing price. But it was in the
Because
range.
the parameters made sense.
Right, because it was in the range, and I do it in the $50,000 interval, and it was in there. Besides, I was relying on the marketing that I was going to put into which we did put into the property, which is key. Why do I get $25,000, $30,000, $40,000 more than the other agents? Because we invest actually a lot more money when we put a listing live. Yes, we put it on the MLS.
Yeah.
Yes, it goes on Zillow, Trulia, etc.
That's a real important key point here, because I think one of the things that
I
have a problem with the idea about what it takes to achieve
the highest
better sale price.
Right.
That
is $1 million question.
Because I think what happens is people talk and they can't prove. So one of the things we always do, because I think one of the things, we just came back from e-checks, and we come back from a lot of places that failed to sell or whatever else. The thing is that we don't just talk about them, we develop case studies.
Correct.
And the case studies are laid out in actually how that's achieved. And guys, if you're out there and you listen to a bunch of sales speak and you say, oh, I can get a high, no.
Oh, listen, the other agent says he can get me $100,000 more.
Yeah, but they're saying it, and this is the problem. You can't, the words and the realities, unless there's a method to that method should be very transparent to you as to how that's achieved.
Well, at that moment, I will open up my laptop in front of the client and say,
exactly
let's look at the highest sales price. Right. So let's use that let's look at the highest.
Well, that happened twice.
And
that happened with Hemlock.
Well, the other for sale by owner on Rolling Hills Green.
Yeah, it was listed, but the parameters, meaning that we felt with a specific
we
type
beat
of...
the other ones next door. We beat them by $25,000.
Right, $25,000 the same exact house.
Same, just as nice, if not nicer, but our marketing was a lot better.
And so that drew in
we drew more traffic. We had 10,000 views the first week alone. More offers came in.
And that's really the key.
Higher again.
Can you create a element of people who would not purchase a house that would overlook it if it was in a database marketing asset? I've said this before. These tools are nice, like the Realtor.coms, the Zillows, the things like that. But it's like, how do you reach outside that box?
And I usually tell
because a lot of people just don't know. Like, if they don't know the area, if you don't know area, if you don't know location, and you don't know where things are located, because I had people literally tell me about Rolling Hill Green, but they didn't even think that was Staten Island. So when they saw the video, they're like, where is that? Is that New Jersey? And the question is that, and that's exactly, and the funny thing is, that was from somebody who was actually living on Staten Island. And that's the key. It's like, there's some people on Staten Island don't even know where places exist and how nice they are. And they don't get that until the perspective of the completeness of it is laid out.
I had clients that came in and they went to United Hills Colony, and the area is beautiful. I mean, the architecture, the homes are beautiful. And they're like, wow. Even I was wowed. I'm from Staten Island. There's Ward Hill. There's United Hills Colony. There's so many beautiful areas that if you do a drone, I would be like, is that California? Where is that? And if you told me Staten Island, I wouldn't believe it.
But that's the big thing. So these are the types of questions that I think overall, homeowners should be aware of. Make sure, and I guess to conclude everything is make sure you're not just paying attention to words. You're actually getting what are the fundamental differences between what you're seeing and what you're told, and could you match them and meet them outside, meaning based on doing
you want to hire the most competent person. Case of
doing a good
the gentleman
analysis of what's the difference. Just understand what the differences are, and I think that's where you'll make a consensus, because you'll know who's investing in the process and who's not. I think it's very quick. That can be determined very quickly.
I'm glad
who's
that
invested in the process is really the question.
He did not treat it as a popularity contest. He knew 5, 6 realtors. They're his friends. He did not list with them. He was savvy enough. He listed with the person that was going to get him the highest sales price for his most valuable asset. At that moment, it was a business transaction, not, oh, how come you didn't list with me? We go out drinking to the bar together, or we went to high school together.
So that's like I always say, would you be willing to trade your stock account for 5% less because you know the person?
Absolutely not. It's business and it's money on the table. If I were
$1
to
million
list
asset.
my
So
own
it's
house,
like, if it
I
would
would
cost you.
do it with the best. Not if I go get surgery and I have a doctor in the family and I need some type, I'm gonna Google the best doctor in New York City and I'm gonna go to that doctor. I don't care if you're related to me. I want the best.
That's it.
And at that moment, it's a business. It's yes, we're friends, we're cousins.
But that's
we're
talking about
drinking
small
buddies.
assets either. It's not like
We're talking about 700, 800, $1 million. This is huge. This is high stakes.
It's just it's so strange.
And they treat it like a popularity contest. It doesn't,
like
And they said to me, "Oh, well, so and so will be mad at me if I don't list with them." Let them be mad. It's
it's a $20,000 madness.
if it's $20,000, $30,000 more in my pocket, be mad and be offended all you want. Be offended, but I'll be $30,000 richer.
Right.
Well, you're offended. That's
I hear this all the time. And it's like, well, I get it. I get it to a certain degree because it's not like a process. The problem is that it's a high stakes emotional battle for people, and there's a comfort level too. I mean,
I understand the comfort level part.
The comfort level is that it's one of the highest stress. I think I just saw it like 2 days ago. It's like it ranked up there.
Besides
like,
death, they say moving. It's like,
divorce. It was like this, just above it.
It's
just below it.
Yeah, they say moving, and I believe
there are some people who are less stressed about their divorce.
No, it's a very.
Than a sale.
No, they're.
I believe.
Well, when they're divorcing,
I believe
they're
it
happy,
was
like finally, it's done.
I believe it was in reverse.
Yeah,
It was
when
like,
you're suddenly like, oh my god, I have memories here. We had birthday parties. And
I guess there's more positive memories.
So you're sad to see the sale.
Right?
That's
So it was like I think it was for the first time ever that I think
It is. They say it's up there with that.
It was a headline that said
It's
home
up there.
purchasing or home
It's
moving.
moving. That's
Home
what it
move is more stressful than a divorce. I think it was the first time it was. I think it was one of these. It was I forget which. It was a legit news source, and I pulled up the article. It's like for the first time in history. I'm like, can this be
And
real?
it is life changing. If you're retiring,
Because imagine the most stressful event. Like one of the top.
well, you think
I think it was the first was the death of the family. The next was moving.
if I had to do it, I would be stressed out. I would be like, okay, if I sell my house in New York, will I ever be able to come back? Are the prices going to go higher? Am I going to like the new community that I'm going to move into? Am I going to see my friends again? It's all these thoughts that are going on in your head, and it's like final.
And you have plenty of thoughts that going on in your head, right?
All the time.
Yeah, you always say what you're thinking, and that's good.
Well, to a degree. It bit me in the rear end both times.
Maybe in private we'll have a conversation. No, it's just, I think the good thing is that you pretty much tell it straight.
The thing with the clients, look, some clients, some people like it, some people don't like it. I tell the truth, and if something you're not going to like what I'm going to say, if people tell me, Victor, I think my house is $1 million, I'm going to say, no, it's not. And oh, well, I don't like it. Well, it's not. Let me do some comps. This is what your house is worth. Yeah, but the other guy told me. I said, well, then I said, would you like for me to lie to you? And then, and I've said that. People are looking at me like, what do you mean? I can lie to you and tell you what you want to hear, but I'm not going to do that.
And that's good. It's good, dude, because I think it's a refreshing part of like. Sometimes you don't want to get people into the wrong head about what it's going to require, and I think some people...
They really, they process everything after the sale. We go back and forth, we argue during the process. But after, Victor, thank you so much for your guidance. You were right. After, we become best friends. During the process... Which one?
Amateur.
Oh. Yeah.
Let me achieve this. That was a big sale.
Something we've had, and I've been on these listings with you, and we've had multiple record-breaking sales prices in New Jersey, in Staten Island.
Yeah.
in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
It's just even look, South Brunswick.
I didn't think that.
Our marketing works. I can go. If I go to Florida,
You will.
I'll have a record-breaking sales price there too.
And that goes to say, it's like, there's so many components into this, and I think what you need to do is making sure things are invested correctly. You'll know that, and there's ways to detect it, and obviously sitting down with, Vic or myself or whoever is...
And speaking of sitting down, anytime you're watching and you would like a
free cup of coffee.
Consultation, coffee, and... Ask me, people. Vic, can I ask you? Ask me 10. Ask me 20 questions.
We should have it. Box of Joe with Vic.
Box of Joe and Vic. Coffee, and you can ask me all the questions you want. There's no obligation. I don't force people to sign. I tell you what I think, what your house is worth, and then you digest it, you process it. You want to call me a week later, 2 weeks later, you want to decide to sell your house, fine. If you don't, you got at least an education. And it costs you a cup of coffee. That's all.
Well, we know it'll be entertaining.
And it will be entertaining, by the way. I can promise.
But that's what we have for tonight. And it's always entertaining doing this here with you, so it's always fun. And when I do that meme, like the cheering meme. But anyway, you all have a great night. We'll do this again, maybe in the next couple of weeks. We'll come back on and do another little segment for you guys. So if you have a question, you have a story, you have something that you think we should cover or look into.
Yeah. A topic you'd like for us to discuss.
You could send a message or put in whatever you call it.
Text.
What's that? Messenger.
Messenger, Facebook. Yeah, any topic you would like for us to cover.
And if you have like Kerry, it'll be Snapchat.
Yeah.
So you can snap us if you like.
TikTok.
I think
TikTok,
Snapchat. I have Snapchat.
There's so many apps.
Yeah, that thing is just to me. It was just not to get into this. But let's call it. We just don't want to. Don't snap us.
Next time.
You can just see our stuff on Snapchat.
But have a good night, everybody.
Have a great night, and we'll see you in a
tuning
couple of weeks. All right? Have a great night. Ciao.